Hello everyone, and welcome to the April 2019 edition of our monthly movie reviews. This is the series where we take all the new movies we saw over the course of a month, and we review them in order from worst to best. We're trying our best to catch up with these videos, but we've got lives and stuff. Now it's time for the movies.
Everywhere I go, I see his face.
You make my earthquake. Oh, you make my earthquake.
I honestly forgot this movie came out. Don't watch it. It is not worth it. Just watch the older one if anything, even though that one's not really that good either. In this one, it is implied that they murder the baby at the end. It's real dark, just because, too. It didn't work at all. It is shot really well, though, and has this one disturbing image that lingered with me. So for that, I'll give it a 3 out of 10 and not a 2 out of 10.
Everywhere I go, I see his face.
You make my earthquake. Oh, you make my earthquake.
The Curse of La Llorona? Is that how you say it?
The Curse of La Llorona.
Well, anyway, it was really bad. It's crazy because I wasn't supposed to see this film, but because of reasons, I ended up actually sitting down and watching the madness unfold. This horror film, if you even want to call it that, is not scary in the slightest. Like 95% of horror films today, it relies on jump scares to meet a quota. I think the biggest takeaways from this film are that the lighting is pretty good throughout, and the story, although super simple, kind of works. Like lowest key, it works. Everything else in this movie does not work. It is a waste of time, and I can't believe that it takes place in the same universe as Annabelle and the Conjuring universe, and The Nun. You think you're the only ghost out there? I'm here to tell you about the James Wan initiative. Also, quick side note, there is a moment in which the main boy says, "What are those?" and the camera intentionally points to the ground, revealing this man's shoes, and I was hysterically dying. I couldn't contain myself, and I'm giving The Curse of La Llorona a 3 out of 10.
Everywhere I go, I see his face.
You make my earthquake. Oh, you make my earthquake.
Hellboy is something else. This movie is super violent and bloody and gory, and the story is super long and all over the place, and really bad and predictable, but it's fun? No, for real, this movie is fun as hell for no reason. I'm giving Hellboy a 3 out of 10.
Everywhere I go, I see his face.
You make my earthquake. Oh, you make my earthquake.
Breakthrough is the latest attempt to try to make Christian movies watchable because they all suck. They're all bad. Most modern religious-based art is just bad. I remember when I was a churchgoer and I tried Christian rock and I was like, oh hell no. I'm gonna go back to Linkin Park and be edgy. Breakthrough succeeds in being a watchable film, but that's it. It's mostly surface level observations, segments of pandering to what's cool with the kids, and really lazy attempts at emotional manipulation. Like every movie is trying to manipulate you, but this film doesn't even try to hide it at all. The girl from This Is Us is in it, and Breakthrough is just as manipulative as that. But it's got a budget and Topher Grace being hip and cool, so that's cool, and I'm giving Breakthrough a 4 out of 10.
Everywhere I go, I see his face.
You make my earthquake. Oh, you make my earthquake.
Little was whatever. Issa Rae was funny in it. It was nice seeing Regina Hall being given a big opportunity to remind people how funny she is because Girls Trip was really bad. A lot of the kids stuff was pandering as fuck. We spend 2 minutes watching these kids floss and shoot, and I'm just like, yay, this is the part where we capitalize on all the trends. There's
What kind of word is that?
and there's a bunch of shit like that. Anyway, the other major redeeming quality besides the actresses was the costume design. The colors were vibrant, there was stylistic variety, and it gives the viewer something visually to chew on because the visuals were mostly bland. The cinematographer didn't know how to light black faces at all, and almost 100% of the cast is black, so that's strange. The story is predictable. The way the message of the film is presented to the audience is after school special-like, but like I said before, Issa Rae steals every scene she's in, and I'm giving Little a 4 out of 10.
Everywhere I go, I see his face.
You make my earthquake. Oh, you make my earthquake.
Missing Link is another stop-motion animated film from the same Kubo and the Two Strings, and I feel the same way about Missing Link. The action sequences they were able to accomplish with stop motion, especially the ship sequence, was amazing, but the story and the message was way too simplistic and on the nose, and the specifics of what they were trying to say has been done to death in animation. I know it's a kids movie, but you want these kids movies to endure well after these kids have become adults. Especially since this message is told almost on a yearly basis in animation, you'd think they would try to to be more subversive or subtle, but that's not the case here at all. Anyway, if you're in the mood to watch some of the best animation out there right now, I would definitely recommend Missing Link, and I'm giving Missing Link a 6 out of 10.
Everywhere I go, I see his face.
You should make my earthquake. Oh, make my earthquake.
Unicorn Store is the directorial debut of Brie Larson, and I've known about this film since 2017. I've been waiting to see it, and it's finally here on Netflix. I enjoyed Unicorn Store, although I believe Brie Larson has a lot of growing to do as a director. I thought the usage of color was well done and expressive. All the casting was great, which is no surprise because the film was directed by an Oscar-winning actress, and it doesn't overstay its welcome. I think with a concept like this, it could get old if it was 10 or 20 minutes longer. Also, it's crazy how many bad faith videos there are about this film just because Brie Larson was involved in the movie. Make a bridge and get over it, you guys. It's not that deep, y'all. And I'm giving Unicorn Store a 6 out of 10.
Everywhere I go, I see his face.
You should make my earthquake. Oh, make my earthquake.
Shazam was alright. It's DC's latest diversion from Zack Snyder, and it's a good thing and a bad thing. On the one hand, this film sets up a story that is consistent and makes sense for the most part, and on the other hand, this film is so visually bland. It is so boring to look at. But that's okay, I guess, because the third act is a better team movie than Justice League. I can't believe I said that out loud. Shazam is the best DC movie since 2012, and I'm giving Shazam a 6 out of 10.
Shazam was a fun little of a movie. I really did have a great time with it. I think Zachary Levi is perfectly cast as Shazam. I'm glad there were a lot of surprises in this film too, like what happened during the last act, and the surprise right before the credits. The cinematography was pretty bland, and I can't even remember the other kids' names, but the story is heartfelt and thoughtful. It's sure to make any kid smile and make any adult remember childhood, and being a wild kid, good film, would recommend. It's the best DCEU film so far, right? Yeah, it is. I'm giving Shazam a 7 out of 10.
Everywhere I go, I see his face.
You should make my earthquake. Oh, make my earthquake.
Native Son was good. It has a lot to say about what it means to be black, whether it's your aesthetic or your job or your attitude overall. There are scenes that critique white feminism, and I thought its observations were fucking hilarious. The film's third act isn't as strong as the rest of the film, and there's some presentation issues I had with the film, but other than that, it's good. And I'm giving Native Son a 7 out of 10.
Everywhere I go, I see his face.
You should make my earthquake. Oh, make my earthquake.
Teen Spirit has a lot of the same issues as Missing Link for me. The presentation is strong, but the story is equally as weak. Overall, I loved all the music choices except for 2 of them. One of them was really strange, and if you know Katy Perry's discography kind of well, then you'll know exactly what part it is when you see the film. But overall, Elle Fanning did a great job with having to speak in a British accent while speaking in Polish. There's a lot of strong visual choices in the film that are begging me to want to watch it again. The juxtaposition between Elle Fanning's performances and Elle Fanning's regular life are pretty great, but as I said before, most of the other aspects are just really weak, and I'm giving Teen Spirit a 7 out of 10.
Everywhere I go, I see his face.
You should make my earthquake. Oh, make my earthquake.
High Life is the latest film from legendary French director Claire Denis. Unfortunately, I've only seen one film from her, and the only film I've seen from her was her previous film, Let the Sun Shine In, which was just fine, although the last scene is really great. High Life is definitely a much better film in my opinion. The cast, especially Robert Pattinson, are great, but don't walk into High Life expecting something accessible because it's not. Narratively, High Life is a very challenging film to sit through because the film is really ambiguous with pretty much every aspect. I want to see this again because I might get more out of it, but my first viewing was pretty sufficient. I think the film had a lot to say about the way men and women treat each other, not just in the more obvious scenes where the characters are committing violent acts against each other, but it's all over the movie, visually. I was kind of confused by Andre 3000's inclusion in the film as an actor. His character doesn't get a lot of attention, and his character doesn't really do much. I was like, why is he in this movie? Maybe because he wanted to work with Denis, but like, His inclusion was just very strange to me. In conclusion, High Life is definitely not for everyone, but if you want to challenge yourself, I would definitely recommend it. I would say this is a mashup of Solaris meets Alien, and I'm giving High Life a 7 out of 10.
Everywhere I go, I see his face.
Cause you make my earthquake. Oh, make my earthquake.
Homecoming, a film by Beyoncé, is a film by Beyoncé. The only thing I really didn't like was that they shot the film on many different kinds of cameras, including Super 8, and there are shots that are clearly not Super 8 footage, but they try to convince you that it was, and I very much disliked that, and I was really annoyed. But overall, that's really it. Although it's 2 hours and 17 minutes, I think it earned its runtime. I don't think I've ever seen a concert film before, but I'm definitely gonna start after seeing this. Although, I don't know how they could possibly even reach the heights that this film reaches. You get a pretty unprecedented look into Beyoncé's life during the creation of her historic headlining performance at Coachella last year. It cuts back and forth to the behind-the-scenes action with the entirety of Beyoncé's performance. Walking into the film, I only really cared about watching the behind-the-scenes stuff, but I became invested in the whole thing. I don't think you need to necessarily be a fan of Beyoncé to enjoy the film, because I'm not. I mean, I don't hate her or anything. I like a lot of her songs. I just don't listen to her often. Speaking of the songs, her usage of sampling different songs as a transitioning tool between sections of the performance and the samples she picked were brilliant. The dancing varies from hip-hop to contemporary to step to crumping, and it was all wonderful. I watched the film with my headphones on, and the headphones that I use are studio quality headphones, and the live mix sounded great, although they probably did some work in post. There's some skit type moments in the performance, and those weren't mixed well, but overall everything else sounded great. It felt like this film was a big part of the performance as much as the actual performance was, instead of being an afterthought. There's so much to chew on, whether you're looking for a documentary about overcoming obstacles, good ensemble performances, singing, live music, nostalgia. This film has so much to offer. There is so much to like about this film. And I'm giving Homecoming, a film by Beyoncé, an 8 out of 10.
Everywhere I go, I see his face.
Cause you make my earthquake. Oh, make my earthquake.
Now, you probably know at this point that most of my reviews for Marvel movies are basically, fuck these Marvel movies, and fuck this Marvel movie, because it broke me.
Avengers Endgame is great. We're gonna do this movie real hard from the back when the Blu-ray comes out, but just know I think it's great, but has some things I dislike. We'll go in further detail in like 2 months or so. When does the Blu-ray come out?
Let's go get this son of a bitch.